hands on the door. It was a cold autumn night when Sarah found herself standing in front of the old house. The wind howled through the trees surrounding the property, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The house loomed before her, an ancient, decaying structure at the edge of the woods. Its stone foundation was cracked, the windows were boarded up, and the roof sagged under the weight of years of neglect. She had never intended to come here. But there was something about the house that had drawn her in. Something she couldn't resist. Sarah had heard the stories, of course. Everyone in town had. It was said that years ago, a family had lived here, until one fateful night when they disappeared without a trace. No one had ever seen them again, but it was rumored that their hands had left a mark on the door. The door. It was the one thing about the house that never seemed to change. No matter how much time passed, the door remained the same. It was a heavy, wooden door, weathered and scarred, with intricate carvings that had long since worn away. But it was the marks on the door, handprints, faded and ghostly, that had captured the imagination of the townspeople. Some said it was a curse. Others whispered that the hands belonged to the spirits of the family, trapped inside the house, reaching out to anyone who dared to approach. Sarah hadn't believed it. She dismissed the stories as nothing more than superstition, a way for the townsfolk to explain the mystery of the house. But as she stood there, staring at the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The air around her felt heavy, thick with an energy she couldn't quite understand. She took a step forward, her boots crunching on the dry leaves that littered the ground. The house seemed to watch her as she approached, its silence deafening. With each step, the feeling of being drawn to the door grew stronger, like an invisible force pulling her toward it. When she reached the threshold, she hesitated. The door stood before her, looming like a giant, and the faint outline of the handprints on the wood seemed to beckon her. She could almost feel them, those cold, clammy hands, pressing against the door from the other side. A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she reached out, her hand hovering just inches from the door. She wasn't sure what had compelled her to come this far, but she knew that once she touched it, there would be no turning back. With a deep breath, she placed her palm flat against the wood. The moment her skin made contact, the air around her seemed to shift. The temperature dropped dramatically, and she felt an icy cold seep through her hand, traveling up her arm and into her chest. Her breath hitched, and she pulled her hand back instinctively. But it was too late. A soft, creaking sound echoed through the night as the door slowly began to open, as if it had been waiting for her touch all along. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as the door creaked wider, revealing the darkness beyond. She couldn't see anything inside, just a black void that seemed to stretch on forever. The silence was suffocating, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. She should have run. She should have turned and fled, but something held her in place. The door was open now, and she couldn't bring herself to look away. The handprints on the door seemed to pulse, faintly glowing in the dim light of the moon. There was something deeply unsettling about them, something unnatural. Then, as Sarah stood frozen in place, a sound broke the silence. A soft tapping, like fingertips brushing against the door from the other side. Her blood ran cold. She stepped back, but before she could move, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The sound echoed through the woods, sending a wave of panic through Sarah's chest. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps as she looked around, her eyes searching the darkness for any sign of movement. Nothing. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Then, she heard it again, those soft taps, like fingertips lightly brushing against the door, coming from the inside. But this time, they were closer. She turned, desperate to run, but her legs felt like lead. Her body refused to obey her commands as she stumbled backward, her mind racing with fear. The taps grew louder, more urgent, and she knew that whatever was inside the house was not finished with her. Without thinking, she spun around and fled into the woods, her breath ragged as her feet pounded the ground. The wind howled through the trees, but it did little to drown out the sound of the tapping, now unmistakably close behind her. She ran as fast as she could, her lungs burning, her heart hammering in her chest. The trees seemed to blur around her, the shadows stretching and shifting with every step she took. She didn't dare look back. She didn't want to see what was following her. But then, the tapping stopped. For a brief, terrifying moment, everything was silent. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the very forest itself was holding its breath. And then, from behind her, she heard a voice. A whisper. It was faint at first, barely audible, but it grew louder with each passing second. It was a voice she recognized, a voice that sent a chill down her spine, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Sarah. It whispered, its tone soft, almost pleading. Sarah, you left me behind. Her heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be. The voice, it was her mother's voice. The ground beneath her feet seemed to shift, and suddenly, Sarah found herself back at the house. She didn't remember how she'd gotten there, but there she was, standing on the porch once again, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The door stood open, inviting her in. The tapping resumed, louder now, frantic. Come inside, Sarah. It's time. Sarah's body refused to move, but her feet, as though guided by some unseen force, began to shuffle forward. She couldn't stop herself. The handprints on the door seemed to burn with an unnatural light now, like something was reaching out for her, pulling her closer. She reached the door once again. The tapping was deafening now, like the sound of 100 hands beating against the wood. The air was thick with the stench of decay, the smell of something rotten. Without warning, a pair of cold hands shot through the door, grabbing hold of her wrists with an iron grip. The hands were no longer human. They were pale and slick, covered in a slick, black substance that seemed to crawl up her arms, tightening their hold on her. Sarah screamed, but no sound escaped her lips. The world around her spun, and in that moment, she knew she was no longer in control. The hands pulled her forward, dragging her toward the door. The last thing Sarah heard before the world went black was the whispering voice, soft and sweet, that echoed in her mind. Welcome home, Sarah. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe for more.